One of the most blood-boiling things ever is that all of a sudden everybody's trying to get a contract on their first phone call. I don't know who started using that as marketing because that's not the reality of it. The average contract, I would say, takes 7 to 9 touches. That's a text message, that's an email, that's a phone call, that's just following up, right? There is always something that you have to be constantly touching and nurturing these leads. If you build a list and you work it once and nobody picked up, what do you do with it? You work it again and again and again until it's dry, right? Like you mail it, you call it, you go door knock it. I'm telling you, work that list. There's so many times where I see people doing marketing numbers and they're saying their conversion rates are, let's just say 1 in 15 if they're doing PPLs. And I'm like, go back to the other 14 and start working them again. You have to do more. Work your list. It's not hard. Just do the follow-up. The money's in the follow-up and that's where it is. It's in the work, the constant repetitions.
Nick, thank you for joining me on our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host over here, Matt Camp, head of partnerships at DealMachine. And on these, we really like to shine an industry spotlight on experts like yourself, hear your inspiring stories, and see how you see the real estate world evolving. So today, really excited to welcome on Nick Sicilian. I know you're somebody who's a seasoned real estate investor and a content creator. You guys might know him from his YouTube channel, the Sicilian Brothers. And I know you and your brother Tony were recently on Dr. Phil. So pretty wild, recent times for you, man.
It's been a wild ride, man. I never thought I'd get famous. I never thought I'd be on Dr. Phil for a good reason, right? Let me just start out saying that. I thought I'd be the Catch Me Outside girl. But I did go, I went viral for saying the most New York thing ever, which is just get the fuck out to a bunch of squatters. So it was kind of awesome. I really enjoyed it.
There you go. And I know you've got behind you the REIAF. I know it's a mastermind you're working on. So excited to have you on, man.
Man, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So
yeah, tell us more. I mean, I mentioned a little bit about your background, but tell us more about how you got into real estate, like your personal story. Love to hear that journey.
Yeah, no. So I actually am the quintessential, went to college, built myself a nice rat race in a sense, right? I went an engineering degree, went offshore, had a whole life in front of me planned, and then realized that I hated it. Not so much that I hated it, it just got harder and harder. So the life that I built, I used to be an offshore engineer. I used to be a Coast Guard licensed engineer, and it was just getting harder and harder and harder to work offshore while my kids were growing up. In that industry, I mean, the divorce rate is through the roof. It's very hard on families, and you're just away all the time. So back in 2018, 2019, I hung up my boots in a sense, and I transitioned into the family business, which is real estate. So I've been doing it ever since. Tony, my brother, the other half of the Sicilian Brothers, he's been doing real estate for about 20 years now. So I kind of got in and just started learning from the fire hose and drinking from the fire hose. I get into hard money lending first, and just analyzing as many deals as I can, cold calling realtors, trying to find lists to get out there, network with. I know I'm rambling right now, sorry, but Tony was like, I was nervous jumping from offshore, right, a whole 9 to 5, building my whole life, and then how do I get into real estate? Why am I doing this? And Tony was like, listen, as long as you can talk to people, that's all I need you to do. I just need you to be able to go to a bar and talk to people and be yourself. And I was like, I can do that. I can go to networking events and talk about real estate and help people. And that's literally what it is at the end of the day, right? Just networking and providing help and helping people. So
yeah, I love that mindset. Yeah, it's a people business in the end. But yeah, I know you mentioned like you've got the engineering background, and you've talked to me about how you really love data, kind of have that focus on using data in a variety of ways. Can you talk about how to use data to really identify sellers, come up with that avatar to reach out to? Like, I know that's something that our audience using DealMachine is interested in, and I know you've used DealMachine for years now doing that stuff. But
yeah, so we do. I don't like to say I do mentorship or teaching or anything like that. I just like providing help. So we have the mastermind REIAF, it's community. I don't. A lot of the other gurus out there, the dodo gurus, they're always telling people to start off by scaling, right? You want to get into wholesaling, hire a VA, and then have that VA start cold calling for you. And all of that entails these massive operations. You're going to have to get a data list that is massive to give to this VA to filter through to finally give you some form of warm leads or something, right? That shouldn't be the way to do it, right? You can use a resource like DealMachine, which is relatively inexpensive monthly, and then build a nice, detailed, curated list, and then just pick up the phone and just start working them on your off time, right? Your first step in real estate shouldn't be to offload. It should be to do more work, right? When you're ready, when you're taking on tasks and you can't do more, then you start hiring out, right? But your first step should never be to try to do some mass quality or quantity, operation. I see people trying to build lists of like 50,000, and I'm like, what are you doing with that? That data is just numbers in a sense, but until you get down into it, you don't need most of it. It was a lot of fluff. So me personally, I like to build lists of maybe 200, all right, 200 people, 200 leads or items in a specific zip code. And then I'll do a couple of those. I'll build those up and I'll give them to my team per week, right? And then you're constantly refreshing that list of 100 or 200 or whatever you're doing. You're following up with a campaign, right? You're going to hit them with mail, which guess what DealMachine can do for you if you're not sitting there. If you want to save money, right, just handwrite letters. It's not hard to handwrite 50 letters a day and then just put stamps on them and send them out. And then when you call them, now you're, hey, did you get my piece in the mail? Oh, no, you didn't? Well, what it said was, I'm here to help, right, for whatever reason. And then you discuss the pain points and, you try to help them, whatever it is. It's if it's tax violations or code violations or anything, right, what their issues are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how approachable you make that and, simplify the process a little bit here. So,
well, everybody tries to overthink it all the time because they're looking for an easy button. And the problem is that there is no such thing. There is no easy button. People always sell the easy button, but that's just marketing. And that's why you're now stuck in some guru's $60,000 program, paying them over the course of 6 months, right? Because you were looking for an easy button. The easy button's not there. It's in the work. Do the work. Simple.
Yeah. So for that work, if you're going to dedicate some time out, and even if it's an hour a day of marketing or whatever the time allotment is, where would you recommend? I know you said, you mentioned the calls, you mentioned direct mail, like, what's kind of your guys' marketing playbook per se in today's market, and how you're initially reaching out to leads?
So it's a very tricky question because I used to say it when I was a lender, right? I used to say you have to refinance to your business when I was a lender, meaning not everybody is at a point where they can burr everything. Not everything's a rental, right? In the beginning, you have to wholesale a couple, just get some equity before you then can flip, and then you can start renting a couple, and then you can hold everything, right? So everybody has different specialties, different businesses. Everything looks different, right? Some people only wholesale, some people only hotel, some people only flip. You really have to find out what your niche is, right? And then dial it in, right? Really get high-tuned with it, whether or not that's working probates, right? If you get really good at just probates, just working probates, and that's all you want to deal with, you can make a living on that alone. Whatever your specialty is, you have to focus on it, and you have to specialize that first. I think that is important. So I think that was a really long runaround answer.
No, I mean, I think it's helpful though. Like that niche, how do you really identify that as a newbie? Like as you go through that the first time and you're like, hey, where do I start? Like, what's the strategy and process behind that, you think?
Yeah, and so building your avatar is one that we always preach, right? When you're first starting out, you don't know what your avatar is. If you want to find your avatar, just go, let's say you have whatever 5 years, 2 years, however many deals you have, you're going to pull it up on your Excel spreadsheet, right? Just like nerds we are. and you're gonna put it all in columns, right? And you're gonna write, all right, these are all my zip codes that I buy in, right? The ones that stick out to you are yours, obviously, right? So you have your zip codes, right? You have your location, you have your age for the property. So last deed date is a very good indicator. So usually we do prior than 10 years deed date, so you know there's good equity there. If I ever need to add people to my list, I'll loosen that up. I'll go from 10 years to maybe 7 years, right? I know I'm going to have more people. The less years I do, the less requirements. Another good, you need to know your ARV, right? If you're first starting out, don't go shopping in 700s, right? Go lower. Our sweet spot is everything under 300. We just market to that all day long. Everything that's prior than 10 years deed date, sub 300 ARV, and then you can play with the tax value. That's another thing. So sub, let's just say 300 ARV, sub 150 tax value, right? So now you know that there's room there for you to grow and work with, right? Yeah. When you layer all those things together, properties stick out to you, and then you can just go work them. Everybody in there, if you build that same list just with those characteristics, you're going to have people that are on the probate list. You're going to have people that are on the fire list, right? One of them is randomly going to be burnt down. You're going to find all these different pain points. How you help them is just doing the repetitions, right? Every deal is different. So every conversation, you have to go into it with a helping hand, find out what their pain points are, and then solve their problems. It sounds easy and it sounds very like a fluffy BS answer, but it's the truth, right? Otherwise, why are they going to go with you than someone down the street? It's not about the number. It's never really about the number. It's who can solve my problems the most. There are plenty of times where Jessica, my acquisitions girl, will get a contract significantly cheaper than the next person, and they'll show us the other offers, and they will say, no, we're going to go with you because X, Y, and Z, and happily go with us.
Yeah. How do you guys, so when you say helping that person, like, can you walk through more specific questions to be asking, like how to have that conversation with the seller to really discover those pain points to solve for somebody?
So when you're on the phone, right, and again, there's difference between inbound and outbound, right? So if you're doing cold calls, okay, that's totally different than inbound marketing, following up, working a lead.
From like a postcard or something.
If you're just doing cold calls, right, the name of the game is speed and just dials, right? Hey, are you the owner? Right? Are you the owner of 123 Main Street? Yes or no, right? That right off the bat. If you're no, click, or like you want to get to the source with the lead, right? So you're not spending that all the time to romance them and try to solve their problems. You're trying to find out if they're the owner and whether or not they want to sell it, pretty much, and make appointments, right? But always realize what your goals are. So cold calling, your goal shouldn't be to lock up a contract. Your goal should be set an appointment, right? You want to bridge the gap between cold outreach and contract. So it's got to be steps in between. And your first contact is not contract. It's going to be trying to set up an appointment. When can I come out and look at the property? Can you tell me about it? To go back to the discussions, what questions you can ask, we use key things like, here's a golden one. What do you think the property is worth, and what do you want to get out of it? Okay, so those are two questions that you follow up. What do you think the property is worth, and what do you want to get out of it? Because those two things are not the same answer, okay? The property is worth $200,000. The property is worth $700,000. Oh, that's great. Okay, all right. What do you want out of it, right? I only want $10,000. I want, because now I want $100,000. I want to walk away with $100,000. Okay, so now you can try to start solving those problems. That is a big one that we always ask, because again, those are two different numbers. and they're opening the door to further negotiation, further questions. Try not to ask yes or no questions, because the goal should never be just the question alone, right? It's always more. Use everything to your advantage. When you pick up that phone and if you hear a dog yapping in the background, ask what type of dog it is. Right? That simple connection. Oh, man, I have dogs too. I love them. Oh, is it Yorkie? I had 2 of them growing up. They used to always fight with each other. Any connections. If you hear a baby in the background, you might not be a parent, but I bet you have nieces and cousins, right? So anything that you can relate to and just be human, just make human connections. How many times? Because again, this avatar, this person, this avatar that we're talking about, right? They are getting touched by multiple people. They're flagging on multiple lists, not just yours, right? So you have to realize that they're getting touched by they're getting mail, they're getting phone calls, they're getting text messages, they're getting people knocking on their door. So you have to stand out in some way or another. And it takes time. So
yeah. Love that. I mean, when you go through that too, I know you talk about breaking down the avatar and then marketing them, having that conversation. I know you guys are great at kind of that follow-up funnel as well. Can you talk through how you think about that, and especially for the newbie, how to do that in the most manageable way, I guess?
The thing that one of the most blood-boiling things ever is the all of a sudden everybody's trying to get a contract on their first phone call, right? I don't know who the hell started using that as marketing, but they're obviously geniuses, but they're also assholes, because that's not the reality of it. The average contract, I would say, takes 7 to 9 touches, right? That is something that's a text message, that's an email, that's a phone call, that's just following up, right? There is always something that you have to be constantly touching and nurturing these leads. If you build a list and you work it once and nobody picked up, what do you do with it? You work it again and again and again until it's dry, right? Like you mail it, you call it, you go door knock it. I'm telling you, work that list. There's so many times where I see people doing marketing numbers and they're saying their conversion rates are, let's just say 1 in 15 if they're doing PPLs. And I'm like, go back to the other 14 and start working them again, right? Like you have to do more. Work your list. It's not hard. Just do the follow-up. The money's in the follow-up, and that's where it is. It's in the work, the constant repetitions. Also, make your life easier, right? Use tools like Zapier or IFTTT or Make.com, like any of these things that connect them. Most of them are free, and you can, when they're all if that, right? If this happens, then do that, and just set up nice little drips almost, right? Drip campaigns of constant follow-ups and make your life easy, right?
Yeah. I love the mindset, man. I mean, well, one, really appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing this overall approach, and I think a lot of people it's a good reminder to put the work in, too, like you said, of really running with it. And like our goal is to give you technology, make it as easy as possible, but it's once you have that, like, you've got a superpower there, but you got to run with it, and you got to be able to set those goals and really be able to put the work in, like you said. Is there I know you're seeing a lot of people who are maybe newer joining REIAF, like people that are trying to get to that first deal or first couple of deals, and might be hitting barriers on, hey man, I'm working this list, like what do I need to do? Do you have any advice for them on how to think about getting over that hump for the newbies out there?
I think it's a fear, right? A lot of times people don't know what they don't know, first off. And the sooner you realize that and the sooner you accept that, the better. You're always learning. As long as you're not making the mistake twice, you're fine. You're gonna fail. This is real estate. People fail all the time. every property that you get into, if you're sitting there and you're worried, you're never going to be successful, because real estate, to be successful, to do this as an actual job, as a career, as a life, not as just a passive investment and just doing 1 or 2s a year, but if you want to make this your job, you're going to have to do work. You're going to have constant flows, right? You're going to have to, even if you're a solopreneur, right, and you're only doing flips and you're doing 5 or 6 a year by yourself, you need to make sure that every time you close on a property and your next one is already set up, right? You build yourself your own river, in a sense, to float down.
Yeah, and it is a good point too. Like, even when you get that first one under the belt, like, don't, like you said, very much continue to build that pipeline like that. If you keep the marketing going, I'd say 9 times out of 10, whenever we have people approach us and say, oh, something's not working, it's a numbers game. It's like, hey, we need to put in more work on either the direct mail, or, like you said, the calling and door knocking and outreach and all that. It's you can reverse engineer the math to know, hey, it's going to take this many leads to get to a deal, and that means here's all the other activities that are the leading indicators to even get to that point. So, yeah.
People don't realize that real estate is nothing more than marketing, right? That we're just in another marketing game. It's another sales game. And leads, right? Leads are the blood flow of everything, right? So people get their first lead a lot of times in the beginning, and they get all excited, and then they stop doing everything, and then they just work that one lead, and that lead turns to nothing, obviously, because not every lead is a deal. It takes, yeah, it might take 10 to 1 or whatever your conversion rates or whatever, right? Like, we constantly have deals that come in leads that come in that are just junk, right? This isn't a deal for anybody, right? Understandably. You just got to keep on farming, in a sense, yep. Right? Yep. Even when you get your first deal under contract and you're in the middle of flipping it or whatever you're doing as a disposition strategy, you have to continually be filling that funnel, right? Yep. We talk about it all the time in the mastermind, building your funnel, the avatar, all of this, right? If you're not steadily filling your funnel with leads, you're just eventually going to dry up. And even if you're a solopreneur and you only want to do 1 deal a year, you have to reverse engineer your funnel so 1's at the bottom, and whatever your percentage rate you want to use for conversions, you're going to have your top end number, right? So if I only want 1 deal a year, I talk to these people all the time. When I interview them, I always ask them, what's your offers per year? Like, how many offers a year are you throwing out there? And a lot of people, they know that number because they know what they need to do in order to hit their metrics, right? Yeah. So if you're only trying to do 1, you probably got to talk to 1,000 people just to get that 1, maybe. So especially starting out.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate the kind of perspective here, the goal setting, the ability to really like try to inspire people to get out there and take the right actions over and over again, Nick. So what's the best way that our audience can connect with you directly?
I mean, our YouTube, The Sicilian Brothers, or anywhere on social media, Nick Sicilian, REI, is my handle on everything. Go to reiaf.com. That's our community. Every day, Monday through Friday, one of us in the community is going live for up to 2 hours, helping our masterminds problems. We have over 30 deals on the board, and we know what the hell we're doing when we're talking about buying. My goal isn't to teach people how to buy and sell. It's hopefully you're buying right and you're not losing your ass. I'm tired of people being sold on marketing and thinking that these one-trick gimmicks are the way into real estate when it's not, right? It's all about marketing, making the right offer, knowing what to do with the property. People need to stop reinventing the wheel, and it really boils my blood.
Yeah, well, dude, we'll make sure to link to all of that in terms of your social media, the REIAF site. We've got a few free resources on our end that I'll throw in there as well. But Nick, really appreciate your time, man. Enjoy the conversation. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for letting me ramble for a while.
No, this is great. I think a lot of it, you're right. I mean, in the end, like you said, it's a marketing game. It's a people game. So the better you can get at solving people's problems and then also, being able to get really good at kind of layering data to have a focused approach on marketing and consistently get out there and do it over and over again, like you're setting yourself up for long-term success with all those things. So
Yep.
I think our audience will get a lot out of this, but appreciate you reiterating that for us. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for your time.
yeah, everyone watching, is Matt Camp with Deal Machine, and happy deal finding.